I wanted to get on here and talk about this story because this one right here really rubbed me the wrong way in a multitude of ways. In case y'all don't know who this woman is and who the girl is, the same person. She was just 15 in the black and white picture, and she's in her 80s in the one next to it. So this is Claudette Colvin. If y'all don't know who she is, she was the one back in the mid 1950s. It was 1955. She was 15 years old, and she basically refused to give up her seat to a white person on the bus. And she was arrested, and she was found guilty, and I believe she was put in jail, if I'm not mistaken, for just doing that. Now, of course, we all know about Rosa Parks because Rosa Parks became more notable for the same thing. Now, one thing that they leave out about the story with Rosa Parks is Rosa Parks was actually sitting in the colored section of the bus, but she was like on that row right before the separation between the colored section and the white section of the bus. And a white guy got there, and he wanted to sit in that. He basically was about to sit in the section that was not supposed to be for him. And what ended up happening is Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat, and we all know the story behind that. So technically, she was in the right spot. He wasn't. But because he was a white man, at that time, whatever he wanted, he was going to get, one way or another. But with Claudette Colvin, her story went completely silent because it got overshadowed by Rosa Parks. And I want to say that they both happened in the same year. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but Rosa Parks got more notoriety than hers did. But the reason why I'm talking about Claudette Colvin is because an article just recently came out today on October 26, 2021, which is the day I'm recording this video, that this woman still has this guilty charge on her record. Mind you, she was 15 when she was found guilty of not giving up her seat. And she's in her 80s today, and she still has this guilty charge of not giving up her seat to a white person on her record today. Since the 50s, she still has this record. It's still there. It has not been expunged. And in the article I'm going to read is going to talk about how she's fighting to get it removed from her record. And it's a shame because she's 80. I think she's 82, if I'm not mistaken. The article is not going to tell her actual age, but I know she's in her 80s. So you got to think, since she was 15, she's had a record. Not for murder, not for kidnapping, not for theft or any other major charge, but for not giving up her seat to a white person. Let that sink in. I'm going to get into it. Months before Rosa Parks became the mother of the modern civil rights movement by refusing to move to the back of the segregated Alabama bus, black teenager Claudette Colvin did the same. Convicted of assaulting a police officer while being arrested, she was placed on probation yet never received notice that she'd finished the term. It was on safe ground legally. Now 82 and slowed by age, Colvin is asking a judge to end the matter once and for all. She wants a court in Montgomery to wipe away a record that her lawyer said has cast a shadow over the life of a largely unsung hero of the civil rights era. I'm an old woman now. Having my records expunged will mean something to my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and it will mean something for other black children, Colvin said in a sworn statement. Her attorney, Philip Ensler, said the statement was being filed with legal documents to seal, destroy, and erase records of her case. Supporters sang civil rights anthems and clapped as she and her lawyers entered the clerk's office where the expungement request was filed Tuesday. Montgomery County's chief prosecutor later said he agreed with the request to clear Colvin's record, removing any doubt that it would be approved. I guess you can say that I'm now no longer a juvenile delinquent, Colvin told a crowd that included relatives, well-wishers, and activists after filing the expungement request. Recalling her arrest, Colvin said, "My mindset was on freedom. So I was not going to move that day," she said. "I told them that history had me glued to the seat and the struggle isn't over yet." Adding, "We still have to continue to fight for our freedom and our rights." Colvin left Alabama at age 20 and spent decades in New York, but relatives always worried what might happen when she returned for visits since no court official ever said she had finished probation. That's crazy. So she actually was on probation, and her probation was practically done, but they never actually told her that it was done. So she had the mindset in her head that she was on probation for a longer time than she actually was. Man, I tell you, Her family has lived with this tremendous fear ever since then. For all the recognition of recent years and the attempts to tell her story, there wasn't anything done to clear her record. Currently living in Birmingham before a move to stay with relatives in Texas, the octogenarian Colvin made her request to a juvenile court judge, oddly enough, since that's where she was judged delinquent and placed on what, for all practical purposes, amounted to a lifetime of probation. The city bus system in Montgomery, like the rest of public life across the Deep South, was strictly divided along racial lines in the 1950s. Blacks had to use one water fountain while whites used another. The front of the bus was for white people. Black riders were required by law to move to the back. Parks, a 42-year-old seamstress and activist with the NAACP, gained worldwide fame after refusing to give up her bus seat to a white man on December 1st, 1955. Her treatment led to the year-long Montgomery bus boycott, which propelled the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. into the national limelight and often is considered the start of the modern civil rights movement. A 15-year-old high school student at the time, Colvin, got fed up and refused to move even before Parks. A bus driver called police on March 2nd, 1955 to complain that two black girls were sitting near two white girls and refused to move to the back of the bus. One of the black girls moved when asked, a police report said, but Colvin refused. A police report said Colvin put up a struggle as officers removed her from the bus, kicking and scratching an officer. She was initially convicted of violating the city segregation law, disorderly conduct, and assaulting an officer, but she appealed and only the assault charge stuck. The case was sent to juvenile court because of Colvin's age, and records show a judge found her delinquent and placed her on probation as a ward of the state pending good behavior. And that's where it ended, Insler said, with Colvin never getting official word that she completed probation and her relatives assuming the worst, that police would arrest her for any reason they could. Insler said it's murky as to whether Colvin is actually still on probation, but she never had any other arrests or illegal scrapes. She even became a named plaintiff in the landmark lawsuit that outlawed racial segregation on Montgomery's buses. Still, Colvin said the trauma endured, particularly for relatives who constantly worried that police were out to get her. My convictions for standing up for my constitutional right terrorized my family and relatives who knew only that they were not to talk about my arrest and conviction because people in the town knew me as that girl from the bus. The chief court clerk in Montgomery County did not return a phone message about Colvin's request, and Insler said it was uncertain when a judge might rule. So imagine going your entire life thinking that you was on probation when you really weren't. All because they did not tell you how long your probation was. They basically had her, and as far as I know, her family living in fear for all these years, when in actuality they probably didn't have to. Probably back during those times, yeah, they had a lot of black people spooked back then, but especially in the South. Hell, quiet as it's kept in the North too. But that's crazy. Like, this is a wild story right here. So she probably very well, like I said, was off probation, but they never told her. They never told her how long her probation was, thus making her believe that she was on a lifetime probation, like the article stated. All because of a bus seat. I'll give it to her though. She put up a fight. She did put up a fight. Like I said, not every black person was like bowing their head to palm colored folks. And she clearly was one of them. It's just a shame that she went pretty much all her life thinking that, you know, she brought a curse upon her family and had her family living in fear because of the actions that she took on that particular day. So that's the messed up part about the whole situation. But hopefully everything works out in her favor for sure. And it should, considering I don't even know why she even has to go through all of this, because really she should be maneuvering as a free woman, but mentally, because they never told her that her probation was up, that, you know, that's why I guess she probably feels like she lived in a mental prison. And that was probably their main punishment for her was to have her believe that she was going to be dealing with this for the rest of her life. Just so they can, you know, get their kicks off for. They probably were laughing the whole time and saying, this little, you know what, has no idea that her probation is probably this long and we're going to have her believe that it's forever. That's probably what they're doing. As petty as they were back then, it would not surprise me. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.